The door to my grandfather's lake cabin slammed open so hard the hinges rattled. Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, stormed in with a clipboard like a sword, barking about violations and community standards. Her smugness was unbearable. But what she didn't know? The man calmly sipping coffee at my kitchen table was the state attorney general, and in that instant, her empire began to crack. If you've ever dreamed of seeing an arrogant bully face instant karma, smash that like button, subscribe, and grab a drink, because this is the story of how a power-hungry HOA tyrant barged into the wrong cabin and lost everything. The lake cabin wasn't just wood and nails. It was my sanctuary after a year that nearly broke me. My grandfather built it by hand, plank by plank, decades ago. After my messy divorce and a draining corporate job, the quiet lapping of waves against the dock was the only thing that still felt solid. I still remember my first weekend back there, the sun setting over the pine-covered hills, the distant calls of loons echoing over glassy water. It felt like a hug from a world that had grown cold. My chest loosened for the first time in months, but peace never lasts when someone like Karen is nearby. Karen wasn't elected HOA president. She seized the title. Designer sunglasses even on cloudy days, manicured nails clicking against her phone, she policed our small lakeside community like a dictator guarding a throne. Everyone had a Karen story, the time she fined a family for excessive laughter during a barbecue, or the morning she berated a 12-year-old for sidewalk chalk. At first I thought I'd be safe. My cabin technically wasn't under the HOA's jurisdiction. My grandfather's property had been grandfathered in, pun intended, before the HOA even existed. But Karen didn't like exceptions, especially ones that dared to look different. The first note arrived on a breezy Saturday, a bright pink envelope on my porch, the HOA logo embossed on the front. Inside, "Your cabin's paint color is unapproved under HOA guidelines. Correct this immediately." I laughed out loud. My cabin had been painted deep forest cedar for decades, but a flicker of unease tightened my chest. Karen had a way of turning small things into wars. The next weekend I caught her lurking near my dock, phone in hand, snapping pictures of my kayak. "Unregistered watercraft," she muttered. The audacity made my cheeks burn. My fists clenched. "It's my dock, my kayak. Stay out of my life." Then came whispers at the local bait shop, Karen telling anyone who listened that I was trouble and endangering property values. My peaceful retreat was turning into a battlefield. The night it all came to a head was perfect fishing weather. A light drizzle kissed the lake surface, and inside the cabin the wood stove crackled. I wasn't alone. Sitting across the table was my old college buddy, now the state attorney general, visiting for a weekend of fishing and catching up. He's the kind of guy whose handshake could calm a riot. We were mid-story, coffee steaming between us, when headlights swept across the window, then bang, bang, bang. The door shook. Karen's voice shrilled. "Open up! You're in violation of multiple HOA codes." Before I could move, the door slammed open. Karen barged in, flanked by 2 nervous board members and a deputy sheriff she'd sweet-talked into coming. Rain dripped off her expensive trench coat as she started snapping photos. "This structure is non-compliant, and hosting outside visitors is a breach of—" She froze when the AG stood. He didn't raise his voice, didn't even frown, just fixed her with a look that could cut steel. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "you just entered private property without a warrant, and you're trespassing." Her smirk faltered. I'm the HOA president," she stammered. "I have authority." He flipped open his badge. The firelight glinted off the seal. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The deputy took a step back, suddenly unsure whose side he was on. The AG quietly suggested, "Document everything. We'll review the HOA's charter and the state's trespass laws." My adrenaline still buzzed, but for the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Over the next few days, we compiled evidence, her letters, her texts to neighbors, even a voicemail where she bragged about teaching that outsider a lesson. I discovered she'd misused HOA funds, purchasing personal garden furniture with community money. At the next HOA meeting, I walked in with a folder so thick it could have been a legal textbook. The AG attended in plain clothes, sitting quietly in the back. The room smelled faintly of mildew and coffee as neighbors shuffled papers nervously. Karen sat at the head table, her pearls gleaming, trying to project confidence. I started calmly. Before we discuss new business, I'd like to address last weekend's incident. Gasps rippled as I laid out photos of her trespass, copies of her threats, and a legal notice drafted by the Attorney General's office warning of potential charges. The AG stepped forward then, his voice like a judge's gavel. This community deserves leadership, not abuse of power. Karen's composure cracked. Her cheeks flushed crimson. She sputtered excuses. This is a misunderstanding. I was protecting property values. But the neighbors, many of whom she'd harassed, had had enough. Hands shot up to vote her out. It was unanimous. Karen was stripped of her position, fined for trespassing, and faced civil penalties for misusing HOA funds. Watching her pack up her folders, lips pressed in a thin line, was like watching a storm finally break. The neighbors clapped softly. One whispered, "About time." My chest felt light, the cabin's walls somehow warmer. Later, standing on the dock as the lake mirrored a pink sunset, I thought of my grandfather. Bullies thrive until they pick the wrong target. Karen thought she was untouchable until she barged into a cabin where Karma was sipping coffee with the Attorney General. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. Share in the comments the most satisfying karma you've ever seen, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping Reddit revenge stories that prove justice can be swift and oh so sweet.